laugh out loud. I don't think. Look, I think in these really big cases, I think the defense attorney uh, will tell their client, "Do not testify." And we saw recently in a very major case down in South Carolina with Alec Murdoch. He discarded all advice from his attorneys and he testified. And you saw what happened, right? He got, although he may wind up getting a new trial because of improprieties by the court, but even if he gets cleared of those, he's still going to do life in prison for his financial crimes that he did. But and again, the judge may not give him a new trial, but there's a possibility he could be given a new trial because of improprieties that happened inside the courtroom, specifically with one of the people that worked there. Patricia Siebold, BK didn't stargaze. How stupid does Antel think we are? BK slaughtered these precious ones. DP Brian, DP, you effing monster. Look, I know there's a lot of people, and I respect people's opinions. There's people in this chat that think Brian Kohberger is innocent, and you have every right to your opinion. Pam Wolger, I live in Moscow. I'm not convinced they have the right guy. My daughter said, don't tell anyone, but I'm honestly not convinced it's him. Well, Pam, that is your absolute right, and I'm sure you have many, many reasons to think that way. I happen to disagree with you, but you have every reason to do that. Patty Gee, a theory I heard, sister figured out it was BK after news reports told dad, who then flew to Washington to drive back car to Pennsylvania with BK to get rid of car and help son. That's a distinct possibility that could have absolutely happened. Let me put this up on the screen. This is from Law and Crime.
Murders are believed to have occurred. But Kohberger claims his expert, Cy Ray, analyzed cell records and will testify that Brian Kohberger's mobile device was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022, and that Brian Kohberger's mobile device did not travel east on the Moscow-Pullman highway in the early morning hours of November 13th, and thus could not be the vehicle captured on the video along the Moscow-Pullman highway near Floyd's cannabis shop. Now, in this notice of alibi, Kohberger explains how he moved to Washington from Pennsylvania in June of 2022 and was an avid runner and hiker, so he'd often explore the area, often late at night. One place he frequented was Wawawai Park near Pullman, where he was a student at Washington State University. So what does all of this mean for Brian Kohberger's case? With me to discuss that is Andy Wilson. He is a former prosecutor. He has prosecuted death penalty cases in the past. Andy, this alibi, I call it alibi-ish because Brian Kohberger's not naming any witnesses who can actually vouch for him. So what does that mean for this filing?
Well, first of all, the Idaho Criminal Code requires that if you're going to use an alibi defense, you have to file notice of it. This is part of that process. And the whole idea is to put the prosecution really kind of on notice of what it is you're going to try to say. So they can prepare to present rebuttal evidence to deal with whatever that defense is going to be. So typically, from a prosecution point of view, what you like to see with an alibi is, or with a notice of alibi, is some level of specificity. And what I see here is this is just kind of a general plea. Hey, the defendant was out in the country in the middle of the night, looking at the moon, looking at stars. From a prosecutor point of view, I certainly would respond and ask for more specificity. I would ask for specific witnesses who may be able to prove his comings and goings. They did list a witness that they're going to try to use to show where he was through phone records, but I just don't think that that's probably general enough to do what you have to do with respect to the alibi.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to want a specific person who can actually testify to this. That's what I'm guessing they mean by a witness, a person that can put you there. I'm also here seeing that they say he was at this favorite spot of his. It's Wawawai Park, and that this became a favorite spot of his as he moved from Washington or from Pennsylvania to Washington in June of 2022. This is somewhere he frequented He was a night owl, so he would frequently go on these drives. And he actually had photos, including in November of 2022, at the same month of the murders, of the sky and of the moon and the stars. So this guy's out and about at night, late at night, in the early morning hours, according to the defense, taking pictures of the stars and the moon at this park. So does that help him that this is somebody who is out and about at times in the middle of the night?
So I don't think it does. Again, it doesn't provide enough specificity to actually prove that he was somewhere else at the time of the murders. As a matter of fact, when I prosecute cases, I like the notice of an alibi because it kind of tips the defense hands, kind of shows me what they may or may not do with respect to the case. And there's a couple different things I look for. Number one is you can get a notice of alibi that shows that your defense is going to be, you're just going to throw anything you can against the wall. So, and again, that's kind of what you see here. It's just kind of an absurd story. This guy likes to just go out in the middle of the night and take pictures of the moon and the sky. And look, I'm not saying he does that, but you also have to deal with the fact that his DNA's in the scene. You've got to deal with the fact that he drives the exact same car that we know is over in the area of the murders. And just to say that he was out, the exact same night of the murders, and he's out just driving around the countryside is just absurd. The other thing that I look for with respect to a notice of alibi is a lot of times it can kind of indicate whether or not the defendant's ultimately going to testify in the case. Because I've seen alibi notices where, look, the only way this alibi is going to be able to put forward is if the defendant takes a stand. And what you're seeing here is they put this expert that they're going to try to use to show the phone records. That indicates to me that, again, I don't think this defendant can testify.
I want to take a short break from this.
So that's in the words of a prosecutor. I'm going to go to the chat. Emily Parkinson, we have to wait for the trial. We don't know about all of the evidence they have. The state wouldn't be going for the death penalty trial if they didn't have strong evidence. Tiffany Crockett, there is no connection between these victims and my client, period. That's interesting. Jeff